Hello folks, we're back again with the Chinese diesel heater, which is installed on the easterly aspect of the cabin number one, which will become the media center eventually. Here we see it on the wall below the east window, next to the water butt. And today what I've been doing is tidying up a bit. I still haven't completed the air intake. As you see, is the silver one that comes in from the building, so any air in the building which has been preheated as it heats the building comes down that tube, and it's still the room temperature of the room itself. So currently the room is actually 23 degrees, would you believe. It's quite a mild day. I would say it's about 15 degrees, 15 degrees outside, but it's 23 degrees in the workshop now, and this has been on for about half an hour, running on very low, 2 bars. So what I've done today is I've moved around to lagging both the air outtake, the hot air outtake, and the exhaust. The exhaust is a fiberglass sock tube that goes right up to the manifold there, and I've cut down the air intake for the combustion, as you can see, and I've put a little bit of very flexible asphalt around the air intake, so it's actually a cone, so it doesn't get wet when it pours down with rain, but the air is free to go up into the air intake. It's only about an inch, so that's providing a much more efficient air intake. I've still got to do the 2 nylon fuel lines. One comes from the tank, goes up into the box there, and goes up into the burner itself. After it comes out, it goes up to the filter, it goes through the filter, through the pump, out of the filter and the pump, down and back out into the air intake. So they've both got to be covered up with probably spiral cable wrap black, so that keeps it from UV deterioration. This is the fire alarm inside the box. Here we see the pump, and it's going, you can hear it ticking away nicely. The existing bracket which came with it, this rubber bracket here, which is fitted to the side of the cabin, the side of the cabinet, which is then fixed to the wall, resounds through the building, so you can hear this thump thump thump. It's great at the moment because I can tell, you can see when you go through the startup sequence the speed at which the pump is running, and it's going on pretty much idle now. This is just, say, 1 pump a second, something like that, 1 hertz, as they like to say. Down here you can see what the plan is with regards to these off standoffs here. Now the standoff is currently just holding it and holding the exhaust away from the wood, but ultimately I'll probably put a load of tiles along the floor and just mount it so it stands off by up to 3 inches away. So there'll be 2 or 3 of them along, and then it will go straight up on a very gentle curve to prevent any back pressure being created by the exhaust. So we'll shut that up. That's a lock, would you believe? And put that up there because I keep losing the bloody key. The stainless steel fuel tank seems to be working okay. We've hardly used any fuel at all. So let's go inside and see what's happening in there. So we're now back in the Katie Tools Working Museum. You can see all the 17th and 18th century tools here, early 18th century. And these are temporary places for everything, because I really don't want to bugger up the general old feel of the workshop. There's a lot of things in here need moving when we build the next building, but for now the controller is up here, and as you can see, I hope we're running at 23 degrees, and the ambient temperature outside, as I say, is around about, I say 15 degrees maximum. So we're 8 degrees above external temperature, which is fantastic for the autumn and the spring. because when it's chilly in here, it's just that little bit too cold to comfortably work. But at the moment it feels like summer in here. It's amazing. Actually, I've had to turn it down because it's quite stifling. The second fire alarm in here, and the carbon monoxide alarm at the bottom is currently, I've got to try not to burn myself here, it's currently showing 0 parts per million, and it's not alarming. I haven't finished the air intake, the air input into the cabin yet. That's going to be, all this is going to get moved out anyway, and that's going to be tidied up and looks quite nice. But I didn't want to put it up against the wall at the moment because I wanted to have some directional ability to be able to see which is the best way to point the heat. Over there, I mentioned earlier, is the air intake. You can hear the air being sucked in, and you can actually see down into here, into the cabinet, and that's going to be blocked up with something rather nice, and the cables neatly arranged. Over here we've got all the flotsam and jetsam for what we haven't used yet. The copy Holtzat full lathe here, and then as we go down, this is still work in progress. The trickle charger that I was advised to get by other members of the group seems to be this one. I've had a look, unscrewed it, looked at the circuit board. Jury's still out. I'm less than impressed with the quality of this, and it's cheap. I think I might go for a more C-Tech one or something a little bit more expensive. I don't want this bursting into flames since it's going to be in here permanently. A lot of these cheaper versions of the Chinese products, which are excellent quality if you get a good QA, but I'm dubious as to whether or not this has got a CE rating for many reasons, one of which is the neutral and the live were wired in it round the wrong way, which seems to be a trait with these. Seems to be a common fault. I haven't looked at the circuits to see whether there was any relevance to that, because it seems to work okay, but it's not something I'd want to leave plugged in 24/7. I've got this battery here, which is a Lucas. It's a 20 ampere hour 12 volt battery. That should be fine for the starting currents for the glow plug. So that's work in progress. As I say, I've got to do some testing on that before I put it in. So at the moment it gets switched on by plugging it in the morning. It gets put on. At the moment I'm just trying to get my comfort zone into leaving it unattended. I doubt very much if it'll ever be left unattended, because I'll be actually working down here. But while I'm not working down here at the moment, I'd prefer for it to be, I'd prefer to do a little bit more soak testing on it before I let it run on its own. And of course, that includes connecting up to the battery and charger as part of the system, rather than just plugging it into this extension lead with a 30 amp DC 12 volt supply here. I mean, nothing gets particularly hot because this just hasn't even switched on its cooling fan for the circuit, so seems to be fine. This is coming out of here really warm now. In fact, it switched itself down quite a bit because I've turned it down. It was too hot in here. Even up the window it's showing 20 degrees, and that is actually reading the thermal temperature of the glass. It's double glazed, but even so, So there we have it, the very latest video on where we got. If we look out the window, we can see down onto the device here. God, it is a lot chillier out there than in here. We see I put this blue fiberglass lagging. I made sure I used suitable PPE to put this on. It's horrible stuff. And so is the white exhaust stuff. You get fibres of fiberglass flowing all over the place. So if anybody puts this on, for God's sake, put one of those little Teletubby suits on that you can buy for a couple of quid and throw it away afterwards. Take it off, turn it inside out, throw it in the bin, and obviously rubber gloves, mask, FFP3 mask, and goggles. These fibres are bloody dangerous. nasty stuff. You don't want to be breathing this stuff in at all, or getting it on your skin, because you'll be itching till Christmas. So that I put that on, but it doesn't seem to actually, it's not a great thermal insulator, so I'll probably cover that over with something a little bit more thermally insulating to stop any heat convection from that out into the cold. But I mean, you know what? I mean, it's purely an economic thing, I think, because this is just continuing to rise up. 24 degrees now. I mean, it's just too hot in here now. So we'll shut this down. I mean, this is on minimum, so I can't get it any lower than one, and it's continuing to rise. The room temperature is continuing to rise pretty effectively. So we'll go into a close down sequence. When you press the button and hold it, it says shutdown sequence commenced. Listen.
Stop heating.
Or stop heating, I think is the word that she uses. And as I mentioned, you can hear the circuitry in here buzzing, which is an indication of high current demand from this as it draws current from the 30 amp supply. It's probably drawing about 12 amps now, so this is why you've got to have much more than 15 amps. These are always over quoted, so I would go 20 minimum amp, because at the moment what it's doing, it's now switched the glow plug back on in the heater, and it's still running the fan over the glow plug. So effectively what it's doing is it's venting out any diesel fuel and vapors out the exhaust as the exhaust cools down. Now, if I could have showed you the Bluetooth app that this comes with, and I'm hoping to get some screenshots of that, basically you can see what the core temperature of the burner is as it reduces. When I switched it off just then, it was 165 degrees Celsius, which is a good running temperature. When I first started this thing up a week ago, there was a lot of fuel pumped in during the priming, and that caused overburning and over temperature alarm, which seems to be around about 225 degrees. So this was running at 165 degrees, adequately heating this room, more than adequately heating this room, which I say is 4 by 3 by 3. It's pretty well insulated log cabin, 44 millimeter logs, but even so, I'm sweating in here now, which is ridiculous in February. So really successful, really happy with it. Would I walk up and leave it running unattended for hours on end? Probably not at the moment. I do like to safety test and soak test these things. It is cooling down right now. This is the important thing I mentioned earlier. If you disconnect turn it off by disconnecting the 12 volts DC supply to it, what happens is the glow plug obviously then doesn't come on. You've got fuel in the combustion chamber, which is burning, which would then result in flooding of the combustion chamber and all sorts of errors associated with that. And not only that, the core temperature, which is running at 165, will then rapidly increase because there's no fan flying over it, and that blowing of cold air across the combustion chamber is important in the shutdown sequence. So the initial part of the shutdown sequence switches the glow plug on, and that burns away on any excess fuel. You can hear there is no longer a fuel pump, so it's not pumping fuel in, it's just burning off the fuel that's already in the system. Once it's burnt all of that off over, I presume it's just a timer. It appears to have stopped the glow plug now because the current drawn from the power supply has stopped. It's gone quiet. All it's doing now is just slowly blowing cold air across the.
Thanks for using. I wish you a safe journey.
Right. So the core temperature dropped down from 165 to when it gets to 90 degrees. It tells it that if you withdraw the power, it won't have any effect on the motherboard, because otherwise it would just destroy the motherboard. The actual core temperature going to really high temperature, because it's not got any cold air flowing over the top of it, will overheat the inside of the entire unit and destroy the processor in the motherboard, which is inside that it sits in a cradle over the top of the fan unit. So it's really important to switch this off in a controlled manner, which is controlled by the processor here. You see this has gone completely dead now, the screen, and I could effectively, there is no fan, hot, cold air or cool air coming out at all. The fan's not running, nothing's running, so I can safely switch the DC power off to this now, which I'm going to do because I'm going to go in and have a coffee. So we'll just unplug this. So slowly but surely we're getting along with this project, which is being created so that I can check the safety, check the efficiency of it, check the cost of running it, check the design and tweak a few things. Like a couple of people said that the air intake for the combustion chamber shouldn't have a U-bend in it because that will create condensation pocket. And that's absolutely correct. So that's been sawn off to a couple of inches, and then the air filter from a motorbike, the conical air filter, is put over the top of that and then covered over itself, but not blocked, so that the air now has maximum freedom. It's the same as any turbocharged car engine or any car engine. You've got to have as much air intake or forced air intake into the combustion chamber, and as much unrestricted exhaust from the manifold as well. So that's why on the performance cars you have a large ported manifold with individual exhausts, and then things like catalytic converters and anything else that gets in the way are usually deleted. So that's the same thing here. I don't think I need a silencer. The actual exhaust noise is minimal. It's the ticking of the actual pump is quite considerable, even though it's supposed to be, inverted commas, a quiet pump. It clearly isn't. I have ordered a cradle, which looks like, basically it is a rubber cradle with two elastic clips that hold the fuel pump in midair, and that's coming on probably tomorrow. Ordered it off of eBay. It's about $11.95, something like that, and it screws onto the cabinet, but it suspends the pump away, so acoustically or vibration does not get transmitted through the cabinet wall, which is really effectively a large plastic drum, and then beat against the cabin wall and acoustically come through into here, which is, I mean, it's not annoying, it's not invasive, it's just as you can hear it. I suppose after a couple of months you probably won't even notice it's ticking away, but it is very evident. God knows what it sounds like in a tin enclosure of a van or a camper van. It must be horrendous trying to sleep with that noise. So I'm going to suspend that. That will be the next job, and see how much that cuts down the acoustic noise. At the moment, as I say, it's acting as quite a helpful aid because I can tell the characteristics of the pump, what it's doing, and check and listen to when it finishes priming, when it ramps up to ignition, when the glow plug comes on, when it slows down after ignition, and then when ultimately it drops down to the pump tempo, the number of hertz that it's pumping the 22 milliliters of fuel into the combustion chamber. So you can actually hear it going tick 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 like that. You can actually listen to every phase of the microprocessor as it controls the pump. Very clever bit of kit. But I think, in summary, it has to be installed correctly. The Chinese diesel heater Facebook group, I posted the previous photographs and the little video clip I did seems to have been taken positively. There's some really good constructive criticism. The air intake, for instance, thermal insulation of the actual heating air intake, again, good idea. Various things like that. People have been very positive about it, so I'm chuffed to bits that it's helped. And if it helps anybody, that's fine. I really don't want to take any credit for any of that, because it was just an amalgam of good ideas from various people posting their installations and then saying, right, this is what I've done, and other people coming on and saying, oh, you don't want to do that because you'll be better off doing this. And I've read the comments, sometimes agreed with them wholeheartedly, and there's a common thread, obviously, and sometimes disagreed, with comments. There's a great issue relating to safety. Oh, look, here we go. The visitors' books and all of the infill planes here from, just a little distraction for you. All of this is going to go up into the new building when it's built, and this will become the media center, which will have a couch, TV cameras, microphones, that sort of stuff. So it's important that this room is heated so it's nice and comfortable when people come, especially in the winter. Little Alfie up here, he doesn't like coming down here. There's his little picture with his product here, Alfie Shine. If anybody wants any decent wax polish, a little bit of a promo there for Alfie Shine. Go type Alfie Shine in Google and you'll get, it's available on Amazon and various other retailers across the world. So safety is my paramount concern. I particularly took stock of the safety issues and comments that were made relating to safety. Have another look over here in the Italian cabinet. Most of the planes in here are from the 1700s, all working, all moulding planes. You can always tell the really old ones because they're longer than anyone else. This one, for instance, sticks right out. 1720, I think, something like that. So safety issues have been my major concern with this project. I've heeded obvious safety tips like, don't put the whole thing in here, and worst case scenario, have the exhaust in here, venting into the room. And I know a lot of people said, well, we used to do that years ago. We had the old Calagas heaters. I remember having them with babies in the room, trying to keep warm, in cold rooms and stuff. But these days, people are aware of the dangers of carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, excess carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide, and all the other combustion gases that you get, the nasties. So that kind of makes the type of heater that they sell all in one a little bit of I'm not sure about. They should be, there's quite a dangerous concept because people are tempted to pick up the whole thing and put it in a room. Clearly they advertise it as being outside of camper, outside a van, outside a car, outside a tent, with the air duct going into the tent. That's it. So everything else is vented out to the atmosphere. But that's not what people tend to do, sadly. And, there have been comments about deaths actually attributable to incorrect installation of these things. I think intrinsically they are safe as long as the only thing coming in the building is the hot air, and the only thing going out the building is the air from the cabin back into the heater to be recycled back into the building again, heated and recycled. Then the power cables and the data cables, and that's it. That's all that should be in the building, really, in my opinion. But the jury's out on that one. I'm not going to get politically correct on this video with regards to that. Anyway, so that's it today, folks. Sorry for the general rambling, but it's a lovely environment to be in down here. So I wanted to give some form of, there was a time when I would come down here in February, and I wouldn't. No way would I stay down here. And the acid test is to see whether Alfie comes down and stays down here. Well, the other day he came down and just sat on his little, you can see here, his little seat, and fell asleep. So you know then that the building is warm enough, because he just does not like the cold. When the summer comes, he's out there, sunbathing. But the winter he's back in, wrapped up in his quilt, and he's 12 years old now, so he's getting an old man. But yeah, so it's a lovely environment. I can stay down here all day. I can get on with my work. I suppose I should put some of the tools back I've been using for this project. But yeah, this is a great place to sit and work. A really lovely place to sit and work now. And it means that it extends the use from probably 6 to 7 months of the year to all 12 months of the year. So I look forward to, I don't look forward to the winters, but I now look forward to the winters a lot less trepidation as I did before. And I think when the autumn comes in and the chill starts in the air, and you've gone through a summer of 20 odd, 28, 29, 30 degrees, maybe more some days in Kent. You get to the point where it comes in the autumn and you think, oh, I can't work down there, it's just getting too chilly. And that's when just switching this on a minimum, it would just take that cold off the air. So yeah. Okay, folks, that's it for today. See you later. Be safe.